A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 7, answers to various questions, marriage and virginity. Now about the questions about which you wrote. It is well for a man not to touch a woman, yet, because of immorality, every man should have his own wife, and every woman her own husband. The husband must give to his wife what she has a right to expect, and similarly, the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And in the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. You must not deprive each other, except by mutual consent for a limited time, to leave yourselves free for prayer and come together again afterwards. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you through a lack of self-control on your part. This I say as a concession, not an order. I should still like everyone to be as I am, but everyone has a particular gift from God. One of this kind and another, something different. To the unmarried and to widows, I say, it is good for them to stay as they are, like me. But if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry, since it is better to be married than to be a flame. To the married, I give this ruling, not I but the Lord. A wife must not be separated from her husband, or if she is separated, she should remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and a husband should not divorce his wife. In other cases, I say, I, and not the Lord, if one of the brothers has a wife who is not a believer, and she is willing to stay with him, he should not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer, and he is willing to stay with her, she should not divorce her husband. For the unbelieving husband is made holy through his wife, and the unbelieving wife is made holy through the brother. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, whereas, in fact, they are holy. But if the unbeliever chooses to leave, then in these circumstances, let the separation take place. The brother or sister is not tied. God has called you to live in peace. As a wife, how can you tell whether you will save your husband? As a husband, how can you tell whether you will save your wife? Anyway, let everyone lead the life that the Lord has allotted to each person, as when the call came from God. This is the rule that I give to all the churches. If a man had already been circumcised when he was called, then he should not disguise the circumcision. If a man was uncircumcised when called, he should not be circumcised. Circumcision, or the lack of it, is nothing, only the keeping of God's commandments. Let each remain in the condition in which you were called. If you are called as a slave, that is of no concern. If you can gain your freedom, make use of the opportunity. Someone called as a slave is a freeman of the Lord Similarly, someone called as a freeman is a slave of Christ. You were bought at a price. Do not become slaves of any human being. Each one of you, brothers and sisters, should remain before God in whatever condition you were called. Now, about people remaining virgin. I have no directions from the Lord, but give my own opinion as a person who has been granted the Lord's mercy to be faithful. Because of the impending crisis, I think it is good for you to stay as you are. Are you joined to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free of a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you marry, you do not sin. And if a virgin marries, she does not sin. Such people will have hardships in the flesh, and I would spare you that. But this I say, brothers and sisters, the time is now limited. From now on, those who have wives should live as though they had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, those who buy as though they had nothing, and those who do business in the world as though they did not. For the present pattern of the world is passing away. I want you to be free of anxiety. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how he may be pleasing to the Lord. The married man is anxious about worldly things, how he may be pleasing to his wife. And he is divided. And the unmarried woman and the virgin is anxious about the things of the Lord, that she may be holy in both body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how she may be pleasing to her husband. I'm saying this to be helpful to you, not in order to put a halter on you, but so that everything should be in proper order and acceptable to the Lord without distractions. If anyone thinks he is behaving improperly towards his fiancée, and he is passionate, and there is no alternative, let him do what he wishes. He is not sinning. Let them marry. But if he stands firm in his heart without compulsion, and has control of his own will, and has made the decision in his own heart to keep her as his fiancée, he will do well. So someone who marries his fiancée is doing well, and someone who does not is doing better. A wife is bound as long as her husband is alive. But if the husband dies, she is free to marry anyone she likes, only in the Lord. However, in my judgment, she will be happier if she remains as she is. And I think that I too have the Spirit of God. Food sacrificed to idols, general principles. The word of the Lord. A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 8, food sacrificed to idols. General principles. Now, about food sacrificed to idols. We know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Someone who claims to know does not yet know in the right way, but someone who loves God is known by Him. So, about eating food sacrificed to idols, we know that no idol in the world really exists, and that there is no God but the one God. Indeed, if there are so called gods in heaven or on earth, as there are many gods and many lords, for us there is one God, the Father, from whom are all things, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom are all things, and we ourselves are through Him. The claims of knowledge. But not everyone has this knowledge. Some are still so accustomed to idols that they eat the food conscious that it has been sacrificed to idols, and their tender conscience is defiled. But food will not bring us close to God. We neither lose by not eating it, nor gain by eating it. Be careful that this freedom of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone sees you, who have knowledge, at table in the shrine of an idol, might not their conscience, weak as they are, be encouraged to eat food sacrificed to idols? So, the weak person is destroyed through your knowledge, the brother or sister for whom Christ died. Thus, by sinning against brothers and sisters and wounding their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food causes my brother or sister to fall, I will never eat meat again, to avoid causing such a fall. The word of the Lord.